So good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege and an honor to be here in front of you all and sharing our experiences. So along with me on the panel, we have Varsha Dubey, and she is Happiness, People Wellbeing, and L&D Manager, Optiomix LLC. Uh, can you come forward, Varsha? Perfect. Next we have is Leetha Pradesh. She is Director, People and Culture, Amadeus Software Labs India Private Limited. So let's welcome her with a huge round of applause. And one more person we have on the panel, and he is Aman Chandra. So he's Happiness and Emotional Wellness Coach, Corporate Wellness Coach. So can we have you, Aman, over here? So as you all know, the topic for this discussion is happiness at workplace. So we'll be talking about purpose, engagement, resilience, and kindness. So I'll be asking a few questions to them, and let's see what are the practices that they are following at their workplaces. How are they making happy workplaces? We have seen during COVID times, the way organization has been working, culturally, a lot of things have changed over a period of time. So earlier, work from home has become a new norm, and many organizations are struggling, how to keep their people happy when they are working from home. So let's understand from them, how are they building resilient organization? How are they infusing kindness at their workplace? And definitely, how is purpose in line by every individual? So my first question is to you, Aman. So it is you are emotional coach, as your profile says. So I'd like to ask you, is kindness must attribute to attract talent, and how far it can take organization?
Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to say I was quite in awe when I was listening to your list of achievements. So I'm really glad to be sitting here with you. Is kindness a must? I mean, I would probably like to ask the audience here once. What do you think? Is kindness something which is a must? Is it an optional thing? What would how some of you respond and say, just to understand your thoughts? If anybody you could just respond and say, what do you think is kindness? Is it something that is necessary in today's world, not just in like the corporates? Anybody, I can just ask, what do you think, sir? Can I ask you? Yeah. So I want to really thank both of you for cooperating. And it was, I want to say that both of you have a very good smile also. When I'm looking at you, it's making me feel good, right? Okay. So just how, when I said this to you, for example, did it change your state before 1 second, what it was 1 second before and what it was 1 second later? I wasn't lying, by the way. It was just, I was honestly saying that when I saw both of you, it made a slight difference, right? Of course, it matters when it's a little bit genuine, I would say also, and you can make out if it's not genuine. But here's my summary. So, kindness is something, kindness, and for example, the simplest thing like a smile is probably the easiest, the fastest, and the most cost effective way that you can actually connect with somebody and change their internal state. So, especially for it's, I have now been an entrepreneur now for almost 10 plus years. Right from the beginning, when I was when I started hiring people, even from the first time, there were people who would tell me that it's you need to be a little bit uh, ruthless. You need to make see how people will perform under pressure. It was just not possible for me. So it just felt like first I want to connect with the person as a human. I want to feel, or rather understand what they feel. And when I am able to extend myself a little bit, only then I'll be able to expect them to extend themselves. So one of the best ways, in fact, somebody else put this phrase across to me, that your workplace should be 80% like an office and 20% like a home. I'll repeat that for you. Your workplace should actually be 80% like an office, but 20% like your home. At home, you expect you extend yourself. There's a certain amount of warmth and kindness amongst everybody. Yes, I hope so. At least I hope it's a little bit like that for all of you. You're a little kind to each other. So you have fights, you have everything, but at the end of the day, you are a little kind to each other also. You care for each other. When that feeling exists, it's the fastest way to create cohesiveness amongst people, and it's always been a must for me. And I believe that definitely in organization, kindness plus empathy, these two things I believe are important. Realizing what a particular person is going through in your organization, for the person, even a CEO should at some level have a basic understanding of what each person is going through. There's a show, I'm forgetting the name. In fact, my mother introduced this show to me, where there's the leader of an organization. He disguises himself as just another person, and he goes around sitting with every a team member. Anybody has seen that show here? I think you're nodding. You've seen this show, maybe?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just to answer your question, I was able to relate to this movie called Jodha Akbar. And I'm a movie buff. I'm sure quite a lot of us are. So, in that movie, I could resonate with what you said because the king, what he does is his wife tells him that you talk about your kingdom, you talk about being a very powerful ruler, but how about you going and trying to understand whether people are actually happy under your rule? And that's where he disguises himself as a commoner, and he goes and reaches out to people, and that's where he realizes that there are a lot of loopholes which he really needed to fix rather than just sit on his throne and assume that things were absolutely fine. So I could kind of relate to it. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And you also have a very good smile. So yeah, I mean that's the best. The way I would like to summarize this is the saying that kindness is actually something which is the easiest, the fastest, and the most cost-effective way to connect with people and to make them feel happier. And if you do that, you don't even need to expect something in return. You automatically will start getting that. So that's where I would like to summarize this first part.
So perfect, Aman. So we understood from him what is the importance of kindness. So Leeta, she comes from travel background. So definitely we would like to know from you, okay, how kindness plays this role in travel industry.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leeta Prajesh. I'm with Amadeus Software Labs. We are the leaders in the travel tech space. And yes, Komal and I were talking just before this, and she said that travel itself makes people happy, so half the job is done, right? But it's not so easy. Actually, a bit of a twist. I'm also the regional talent acquisition head for APAC in India. And I'd like to spin the question around, how do you attract talent and where do you play kindness? So India's actually gone through a lot of shift in the industry, right? We used to be an employer's market. Today we are an employees market. And honestly, I think organizations have learned to be more kind to these employees. Because in the past, what we have seen is that, organizations call you, they give you an offer, you accept it, you don't accept it, doesn't make a difference to them, and they move on. Today, let's see a show of hands. How many of us has at least 2 conversations with a candidate who has an offer on our side? Why do we do that, right? There is an angle of kindness that has been brought into the workplace, and the kindness is the fact that respecting the individual, respecting that you are not the only choice that they have, and to build an organization that portrays that from the very beginning of the interaction with employees or with candidates. And I say candidates because that's the first impact that you make, whether it is a timing that you want to schedule an interview where your leader is available and the candidate is not available. How do you articulate that? How do you convince the candidate to be on board? How do you make up for their flexibilities and, provide an open environment and constantly engage with them? I think that's the part of kindness that organizations today have learned. May not have been like this 20 years back, but in the past 5 years, and especially the pandemic kind of took things forward much faster than what we expected. I think kindness has to start from the first call that goes to a candidate and continue from there on to understand what employees want and how we can make them happy.
Great, perfect. So, Lita, like at ESDS, there has been one example because our CEO, Mr. Piyush Somani, he's known for his kindness. So here is an example of kindness, during COVID times, when everyone was running, there were so many things happening around, and people were not finding vaccines and everything, medicines and all. So there have been he went on helping out many family members, whoever required help, not just our people but their family members and all. But to our surprise, many ex ESDSians, who have worked previously with us, they told their family members, if at all happens, I'm not getting recovered, if you at all find me in such situation, you call my Xbox and he will definitely help you out in case of any emergency. So that is the level of how long does it go? Ex ESDSians trusting, they're working with competitors and they still trust their ex boss. So that is a level of kindness that we have created at ESDS. So my next question is to you again, Leetha. So we talk about resilience is extremely important component when it comes to happiness, because people who are resilient, they show more signs of happiness. They can bounce back anytime, and people who have this capacity, they definitely have levels high in terms of happiness. So my next question to you is, what defines a resilient organization and what strategies can bring out the same?
Okay, great question. Amadeus was highly impacted by the pandemic. No flights took off, and that impacted our business. We were almost negative 100% profitability at a point in time. This was 2020. We're in 2022, and travel has not yet 23, and travel has not yet seen full recovery as it was in 2019. In that situation, I think being resilient was, I think, a culture at Amadeus, and how we did it. And what I saw, and I take a lot of pride in talking about, is I think open and honest communication from the leadership. Yes, we were very honest about the fact that yes, our profitability is zero. We do not have enough money right now. What are the measures that we are taking, and how are we making sure that our employees are not impacted? The first step that Amadeus took was to ensure the people are taken care of, okay? And we did not lay off a single employee in these 3 years where recovery is still coming up in the travel industry. We actually worked it a little bit around for them to be able to take a decision on how they can help the organization, and launched programs which were around volunteering programs, which were around if they wanted to work for 4 hours or 6 hours in a day, they could work for those many hours. They get that flexibility, and it was not just a direct proration of like if you work for 4 hours, we give you 50%. We still continue to give them maybe about 60% of their salary, and that was one method. Then we also looked at, we are a 35-year-old organization. There are many people globally who are almost at the verge of retirement. We gave them an option to take a voluntary retirement if they wanted. So actually it was quite heartwarming for us to see that how employees came forward to support the cause of the company. And we knew that we had done something right in our DNA. And I think that was just pure honesty, transparency of what is happening in the organization, ensuring that there were continuous updates, making employees the part of the solution, not part of the problem, and taking that forward. So I think resilience is something that is an ingrained culture, and each time there is an impact, whenever we hear, oh, there's a fourth wave of the COVID, we are like, it's okay, we will go through this as well, and our employees believe that we will be able to do it. So that's an example that I can talk of.
That is so amazing. Like, what a full example. So, also, like, I've been hearing about, like, I have read one case study around Southeast Airlines, and they were not earning a lot of profits, and this organization was about to, like, collapse, and their employees didn't take the salary for 6 months, and instead they started working, like, ki we had such a wonderful culture in this organization. What can we do to save our organization? They started planning, they started taking hit on the salaries, and still they built an organization, and which went on becoming a profitable organization. So this resilience plays a very important role. So also we would like to ask Miss Beautiful Smile, from you, how important is resilience, and how to build that culture of resilience in organization?
Well, thank you for the question again, Komal, and thanks for the compliments to both of you. Um, Well, I would like to quickly introduce my organization. I work for a company called Optimix, and I am the employee experience head out there. And when I say employee experience, we actually, this is further to what Mr. Arun Bharadwaj between A and B just spoke about, understanding what is it that an employee needs. So we are basically a US headquartered technology consulting organization. We have our own completely owned delivery center in Bangalore, which is the IT hub. But speaking about resilience, this is what we did. I think the first step to address resilience is to acknowledge that yes, there is a problem. That's the first and foremost step. The second step would be to be in acceptance of what's happening around you. And just to give you a little example of what we did as an organization, while as HR fraternity members, we actually would be handling various departments, be it talent acquisition, or let's say HR operations, or talent retention, talent management, which includes learning and development and various other functions, right? So while we would be doing other things, somebody reaches out to us and we resolve their concerns. That's what we all do, right? We bring a smile on everybody's faces. So here is a little example of kindness also. What my COO did was we had to, like every other organization, we also had to choose a smoother transition from working from office to shift to working from home, right? And it was not an easy task. We were all coping with the digital part and working in silos. And that's where we realized employee engagement wasn't at an all-time low, right? We were not those corridor gossips, which we used to do, reaching out to people, having chai, coffee, right? All that was not happening. So he and I, all of us put together, we instituted a team. And the sole focus of this team, I take pride in saying this, was to reach out to people. I don't know if there's anybody out here who works for the BFSI sector, banking and financial sector. All right. So, but I'm sure you all have your own personal bankers or relationship managers. The employees in my organization have a dedicated relationship manager whom we call as employee well-being. So a Prerna sitting there or a Gunjan out there in Bangalore would reach out to every individual just to check how they are doing. And which started as a concept, and it is now contributing in a big way to business by the way of, improved retention for up to 78% in the great resignation phase. And today we are in single digits. And ours is a mid-sized organization, and every person resigning makes a huge impact to my organization. So resilience was about me and my team members reaching to each one of the employees, and we do that on a daily basis. We call them and say, hi, how are you doing? Is there anything I could help you with? And right from onboarding experience to probably, let's say, somebody is looking at a growth, a career progression, you're looking at some intellectual growth in terms of some support from the learning and development department. So if I am a new joiner, I know that I need to reach out to a Prerna or a Gunjan, and they are going to help me out with whatever I need. And a part of this role is to help them understand that you need to be happy in the little things that you are doing, in the little things that you are achieving. And that also helps you to build resilience. And just if I can take a moment to also add a little to the act of kindness, which is, I personally feel, a very highly overrated word. Why are we talking about kindness, which is supposed to be within you? Right? Just to give a little example, today, I mean, buffet breakfast at Taj, we all know that it's always amazing and we always look forward to it. I'd been to the counter where they were serving pancakes and waffles. And there was this gentleman who was right ahead of me. And this gentleman said, "Waffles are cold. Serve the hot ones right now. I'm paying for it." And I thought, we talk about people who are staying in a place like this, a resident, and a little act of kindness. The next step, what we did was, myself and my colleague, we just walked up to them that, you were working really hard. I'm sure you would have toiled till late in the night. You woke up early, and look at the smile on your face. It's so infectious, and you serve with a lot of love. And you know what? These cold waffles are pretty crisp, and I really like them. And please ignore what just really happened and continue to have that beautiful smile on your face. The same thing what they said, that could have been told in a very different way. Would you mind? I'm a person who likes things which are served piping hot. Could you please arrange for hot waffles if you do not mind? Rather than that, I think those little things that you can do speak about kindness. And resilience is all about, if I may say, Komal, it's all about accepting things and how soon can you bounce back to where you were earlier. And that, of course, would require a lot of talking, and which is what my organization does as part of, as we head well-being team. What we do is we reach out to people and help them to understand. We help in understanding their concerns, and we address that. So that's what we do at my organization.
That's lovely. So just by changing your language, you can change, like, you can still get what you want, and you still can't, like, don't hurt anyone. Like, it's so important, like, that everyone learns this way of communication. So very well put, like, So my next question is about engagement. We all think, like, engagement, employee engagement is a costly affair. So Aman, we would like to understand from you, what do you think about, is it a costly affair, or is it intentioned to create a happy workplace? What do you think about?
So if you look at things financially, it might be possible to say that yes, this is an expense. However, I always think of looking at something that you are doing which is going to repay you in the long run as more of as an investment than an expense. So if an organization is wanting to spend, for example, on employee engagement in a particular way, first of all, the mindset should probably shift from looking at it as an expense to an investment. Just another example is, like, most of us say that I uh, wasted my time, for example, in doing something. Instead of that, you can say I invested my time. That simple mindset difference also helps you understand that if you're doing something and you're expecting something in return, that's worth the while. So employee engagement, if it leads to their overall emotional well-being being better, if it helps them to be happier, then why not? And this is becoming more and more, in my own experience in the last 12 months specifically, more and more founders, HR people have approached me to help them with their employees' overall state of mind, their motivations, their internal teamwork, their teamwork skills, the interpersonal skills. So therefore, if more and more people are able to understand that it's important, I think it's becoming a trend, and definitely employee engagement is is something that we must look forward to and keep a little bit of budget aside for something that something like this which we can invest in.
Okay. So, but in my perspective, I feel it's more about intention rather than having budgets. I choose to differ from this because, at ESGS, we have launched around, there are 8 types of happinesses. So, someone feels happy when they're intellectually challenged. Few people like when they are, going into environment. So, for them, environmental happiness is important. Few people, they are very emotional people, so they are must to be into HRs, so they relate people, they have a lot of empathy, kindness, all these traits. So for the such people, emotional happiness is important. So we went on around in defining 8 types of happiness. For few people, financial happiness is extremely important, so we put salespeople into such field. We analyze people basis, what is the kind of happiness, they resonate with, and we put them into such places. And so just like Varsha said, they have a 1 digit attrition. So at ESDS also, we are despite being great resignation period, we are experiencing, and even our people are offered thrice, of what they are drawing, from our organization. Even if they are offered thrice, they don't leave our organization. They say, ki we can get money, but we can't get the culture like this ever. So they people really don't, most of them would not only work for money, but having a great culture is the greatest asset, any organization can build. So moving to next question. My next question is to you, Litha. So we once a janitor was asked by one president of US, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm helping my organization to put a man on moon." And that organization is none other than NASA. So look at the level of penetration of a purpose in any organization. Even janitor says, "I'm helping my organization to put a man on moon." So Lita, what do you think as an HR professional, as a HR leader, how do we penetrate, the purpose to the end level, so that every single person in the organization feels the purpose? So what are the ways, and how it is done in your organization? So we would like to understand from you.
Okay. So I think I was at a similar conference last week, and I will take some of the inputs that I heard over there, right, which resonated a lot for me in Amadeus. So, what is purpose? Purpose could mean various things to various people. Fresh graduate coming out of college, for them it is join the workplace, get some good monies, have fun. Okay. To somebody who's at their mid-career level, it could be about growth, flexibility for some, being able to manage some of their life stages. It could be various things. But what's the crux, right? At the end of the day, when people talk to us, if you sit down to a coder and you tell them code this, there's some widget that needs to be done, get it done. The person may code, but the person doesn't feel fulfilled. But if you explain to the person, by doing this, 10 airlines take off on time and we don't have to pay a penalty, that much more user experience goes up in the travel space. That's the purpose. So the idea is, in our place, is to define the purpose. Shaping the future of travel is what we go with. And at every stage, what each individual does, we keep helping them understand what is this overall purpose that you achieve. And people take a lot of pride. I mean, I've heard many people who come and tell me that joining your company, I'm able to tell my family where I have touched their lives. If I go into an airport or if I board on an airline, I'm able to tell them, you got your boarding pass on time? That's because of me. Can you see all the schedules that are happening, how fast it's moving? That's our technology. So that purpose, I think, is very important. And to reiterate that is also there. The other point I'll touch upon, you spoke about engagement and experience. Everything need not be money. Recently, we have about, we are about 10 years in the industry today, and we had a good sizable amount of employees who had completed 10 years with our organization. And one of them actually wanted to say something on that day, and the person comes up to us and says, for me, Amadeus is not a brand name, it's an emotion. So that, I think, defines the purpose for individuals. If we as an organization have been able to achieve and instill that kind of a loyalty, I think purpose is automatically defined.
Amazing. So, Varsha, can we have it from you? How is purpose, integrated in your organization?
Thank you for that question, Komal. What I would like to call out here is an organization, or rather, each one of us present here in this room, our life is meaningless without a purpose. Like Arun, you just highlighted some time back, when you wake up, if there's no purpose, you don't even feel like waking up. Every organization needs to have a purpose in order to be successful. And we have a beautiful performance management philosophy, which really drives people to align their individual purpose to that of the organization. While we are looking at organizational purpose, we also go one step ahead in defining a certain index. I would like to throw a little light on that right here. We don't treat employees as, I'm sure Prerna is recording this, and my CEO would hate me for saying employees. We call ourselves optimizers. So optimizers, we have certain, we reach out to people, like we told you that we reach out to people and we talk to them. We also understand, we treat them as individuals first than professionals. We understand the humane element involved, which is where we understand what is their social goal, which takes care of their spiritual quotient. What is their leadership goal? What is their learning objective? What is their personal goal? What is their financial goal? And if that is aligned, which is their purpose, is aligned to that of the organization, I think people are very excited. And I would completely agree with you as well that somewhere, if, when we say, I work for an IT organization, a technology company. So basically here what happens is, you ask a Java developer, right? Okay, do this, right? And that ends there. Okay, I'm supposed to do it, a job to be done. That's called job to be done. But let's say somebody explains to him how it is going to contribute to the organizational objective, how that would help my organization earn this many dollars, or save the client expenditure by this much amount or this much percentage, is what is going to make a significant difference. And which is where, if we also we also treat our support staff very beautifully, and we tell them how everything that they do matters a lot and creates a lot of impact. So aligning them to the organizational objective actually begins with understanding what their purpose is. And if that is met through aligning them to the organizational objective, it becomes pretty much easier in that way.
So, we can sense the kind of passion you have for your organization. The purpose has been deeply rooted in, we can see it through your talks. So amazing to see that. So we all have also seen one more example of integrating the purpose. So whatever has happened on 26/11 in Taj. So we all know that. So the culture of organization has been, the purpose of organization has been so integrated within all the employees. So rather than running to save their own lives, they guided everyone, every guest to rescue them. They tried every possible way. Many would have lost their lives in doing so, but still the purpose was so deeply rooted. We also see that, best example is army. So how do deeply, even if they're sacrificing their life, they sacrifice it with so much of pride. So that is the level of purpose that has been integrated in everyone. So great. Meanwhile, we are asking last question. So anyone from audience have any questions, go get those ready. We have all the three panelists and including myself to answer your question. So last question again to you, Varsha. So every one of us is facing the situation that employees don't want to come to work in spite of numerous amount of engagement at work. So has engagement become a shallow word these days?
I personally feel that engagement and empathy go a long way, and they still top the charts. And I'm sure all my fellow HR members would completely agree with me. And like Aman rightly quoted, it's an investment. And that's a very right kind of investment that we continue to make in individuals. While we definitely acknowledge the fact that somewhere it has not been easy for people. People are in their comfort zone, people are working from home, and that also is kind of giving them a good work life balance. Not that it was not happening earlier, now the lines have blurred, I completely agree. And we are also in a dilemma, we are in a fix, all of us are in a fix, I'm sure, as to how to get people back to office, right? That's going to be there, because we can't really push them with the kind of the great resignation which we faced in the year 2021 and 22. But having said so, engagement is extremely important, which actually drove us to the fact that there was requirement for a team which will cater to individual employees being engaged and avoiding quiet quitting, which was the new terminology which came up during the Bani phase, and which is how we believe in engaging. So gone are the days when, we would organize those initiatives, the fun-filled ones. I think now that people are working from home, and we have more than 200 people working from different parts of the country. So there are about 200 homes, right? Work from homes. So in this scenario, I think all of us reaching out to them and engaging with them on a daily basis, trying to understand what they need, is something which we have been able to do successfully. And apart from that, what we have also been doing is somehow, in a smarter way of doing it, was to ensure that, we actually introduced a budget which was on travel and accommodation. And we compelled people, we actually motivated them to come for certain outings. And that the flip side, or I would say the twist to it, for the correct choice of words, the twist to that was to make sure that all these people also work from office, wherein we had set up meetings with the senior leaders to understand what their vision is. So there was an agenda which was set for all those people who would come to work from office, because we had a lot of people whom we had hired and we had never really met except for the virtual connections which were happening. So we motivated them, because there was a rapport built already with them. We motivated them to come and work from office for about 5 days, and those 5 days were absolutely magical. We made sure that we provided the best of experience in terms of connect with the leadership team, few interesting activities from the HR team, and project vision. And then moving on, it was concluded by team outing, and we actually saw people were in tears and they wanted to meet back again. So I think little steps towards engagement would make a huge difference and would go a long way. So yeah, it would still not be a shallow thing, and that's the way to go. Thank you.
Great. So, Alita, you'd like to take this question?
Sure, Komal. So I don't think engagement purposes are defeated. Okay. See, I think we were an early adopter to this, work return to office, RTO as we would call it. I think way back in 2020, late 2020, we had actually started the whole RTO mode. And it was not brute force, I'll be honest, right? I mean, that's where you again have to go back, understand what people are saying, why are they saying what they're saying, and accept that, okay, the world seems to be moving into a more agile, way of working. So what is the best approach that we can take? And through that, we came up with the hybrid work model. From 2021, we've been in a hybrid work model, and we have many employees who come into office. I think we have very less who work from home continuously. Most of them are back in office, and they blend between coming to work 3 days, having the flexibility of 2 days. It's also interesting to see that, when you're going out with your colleagues for a cup of coffee, discussions happen, something is said, some input, some knowledge sharing happens. And people who were at home were feeling that, oh, if I was part of that conversation, I could have also gained from it. So people are actually coming back. And if I just trace this back into human instinct, I mean, we are a social being. That's what eventually will come back into the workforce. It'll take some time. Honestly, I don't think we put separate budgets. And like I said, budgets were out of question for us in the past 3 years. We did it with experiences. For example, purpose you were talking about, right? Volunteering. 82% of volunteering happened even during these years, and employees came forth. So it was finding purpose in what would they be interested to come into office, what is it that they want to hear, and that has worked well for us. And I think we have progressed really very well on the return to office model.
Amazing. So even in at ESGS, we believe in creating a culture where people don't feel like staying at home, so as everyone is coming down to office for experiencing social happiness. It is very important, as you rightly said, Leetha, social happiness. So we find most of the people sitting in the canteens and they're chatting and socializing because they feel happy about it. So at ESGS, we have created a culture every Friday. So we have a Friday mass, and there we perform one activity. So we have a very good lawn, because environmental happiness is very important to ESDS along with intellectual happiness. So we put someday we are arranging for a sprout party. So they have to make their own sprouts, there are a variety of sprouts and they have to make a chart out of it. Or someday we are making some or the other fruit party, or this way, so every Friday we arrange some or the other thing where people talk so much about it that rather than so while leaving on Friday, they are rather than searching job somewhere else, they are still socializing, they are discussing this is what has happened in our organization. And so rather than saying thank God it's Friday, we believe in creating a culture of thank God it's Monday. So people want to experience what is next that is going to happen. So small things, as I said, okay, it's not just about budget. Like Sprout Party hardly took yeah, but intent is very important to create happy workplace. So it's, if you have intention, you'll definitely find a way. So budget wouldn't be a constraint. So we are open for questions, audience. Yeah, we'd like to.
I'm sitting here kind of flabbergasted because I have to acknowledge that I'll keep it very short. I come from Iceland. We have minus 16 degrees today and a snow blizzard. But we've got a very high standard of living, but still we're ungrateful for everything we get. I've been working in Dubai, I've been working in America. They're very kind until they get their tip. You know, I've been working in the UK. The kindness is very formal because they have to be according to the script. But here in India, I've never experienced someone's kindness, just who you are, the culture, the courtesy, the smiles. It's genuine. I just want to acknowledge it. It's been a wonder to be here. So thank you. Sorry, I didn't have a question. Fantastic.
Sorry, 30-second, not a question. I just wanted to add to what you said. This happens to be my research area. We say Atithi Devo Bhava. What it means is the guest is a form of God. And I want to share with all of you as well, because we are talking about kindness as a virtue that we need to nurture. Actually, that was part of our culture and foundation of us. Because Atithi means the one who comes without Atithi. The one who can come unexpected, the guest. He doesn't tell I'm coming. And that means that person is not known to you. That means it can be any person. Somebody who appears on your door, you treat them like God. So you can imagine we grew up listening to this. It's part of our DNA. It's just that it has gone dormant somewhere probably, and we have to use that as a HR policy to bring it out now. But thank you very much for your observation, and we hope you have a great time in India. Thank you very much, all of you guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a question to the one of the panelists that when we were discussing about engagement sector, so if I'm not wrong, Aman, right? Yeah, so you mentioned that engagement activities or anything in employee experience side, it's kind of an investment for a company. But what, according to me, as a freshie or a fresher or a new joinee in a company, I think investment, if you say something of that sort, it comes with a return, right? If we invest some amount of money and some way, we expect some return. But if we are expecting something in return, is it really a good intention to start with?
Okay, so there are various levels of consciousness, I would say. And normally, if we do something, we do expect something in return. Although ultimately it's possible to reach a level where you can do something where you really don't expect anything in return. Whereas something like, this is something similar to what Arunji was talking about in his ending segment. Do something for someone who you know cannot do something for you in return. Am I right? So when you're in an organization, when you're running a business, it's probably it most likely will be that there would be an expectation of something in return, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong in that. So if the person is expected to return, that's fine, and there's nothing wrong in that. So if that was what your question was exactly, as to whether that should be there, I think it's okay, as long as it's within a certain boundary. And if you are invested in as an employee, you would be happier to respond also, and it would be coming from you more automatically. So that's it's part of the game.
Yeah, hi. I'm Anand Rai, and basically I come from HFCL Limited, which is mainly into manufacturing. And recently, for last 2 years, we have ventured into new domain, the 5G domain. So we have started manufacturing in 5G products, basically. And I there had the business, the 5G R&D business, and we run the overall program wherein engagements and everything fall under a brand called as CARES, like Consulting Aid for Resilient Employee State. Emotional state, sorry, resilient emotional state. So we cover all of these engagements as part of it. But as I heard all of your backgrounds and the cases which you expressed, and really I'm really overwhelmed, because I would like to create that type of culture in my organization, because anybody gets double triple, they just leave. So my point is, it's really nice and overwhelming to hear all that. Plus, I also want to acknowledge the other person who asked the question there, the freshie. So I'm saying, we need to really learn fast, because freshies have same questions which I had. You know. So basically, I not as a question, but I as an observation at that time, when you told that this could be termed as investment, rather using that word investment, I will say this is more like a premium you pay, right? So you have a term insurance plan, right? You pay premium, you don't expect any return from it, right? I hope so, right? So it's more like that. So it's a premium. Company will have to pay to avoid a big losses going forward. My actual question here was, we talk about these terms. These are so basic to human nature, like kindness, empathy. But ultimately we have to acknowledge the fact that we work in an organization, a business, right? The sole objective of a business is profitability, right? So in that scenario, we'll have to keep smiling like that, and we'll have to give some numbers to them, right? So how am I going to improve the kindness of my organization? Those type of things are to be really, really looked into, like some objective scientific method of identifying or calculating the overall level of kindness we have, or empathy, or like chi factor, which sir told, right? So something like that would be really, really good. If you have implemented something like that in your organization, I would really like to understand that from any one of you, please.
Yeah, I
Thank
would
you.
like to take this question. So while the whole objective of starting the well-being function, which reaches out to people, was to understand and empathize with people and help them become more resilient and organize workshops, tie up with probably psychological counselors in case it's required. But over a period of time, like you rightly said, ultimately we are running an organization, and how is it going to impact the business, and how do we see that we are able to make a difference? So I would say, when you have a team as the team that is working closely with me, it helps also for us, it also helps us to understand what is the sentiment. So if you, there are certain tools available in the market, I can also talk to you separately about it, which actually help us to understand the engagement level of employees, right? And those are globally recognized and pretty good tools, very effective tools. And we also do this, that we understand the engagement levels. We also can foresee resignations if we have built that kind of rapport by extending our kindness, which is how we were able to stop a lot of people from resigning. If I have to put that in numbers, just in the last 6 months, we just understood, because that's a kind of rapport we have built. So we got the pulse, and we have proactively reached out to them and understood, is there anything wrong and how do we fix it? And those those numbers, if I may just quote this, we actually have presentations also which are being made to the leadership team, to the stakeholders, where we show that project wise what are the updates and where is it that they need, we need more of their involvement, or their where they can involve further and fix things. So there are tools available, and on the other hand, we also can, predict. There are tools around that as well. And once that is done, you can actually have those regular PPTs and you could have that ready. And that will actually help us in channelizing our efforts in certain directions. While we'll be treating everybody fairly, with love, with happiness, with kindness. But at the same time, it is also important that wherever there's a concern area, we can, since we have proactively reached out and we have understood the concerns, we can actually address those concerns and make sure that, when there's a spark, that's where we douse the, things before it actually picks up a fire. So I would be happy to talk to you separately also about the tools. Thank you.
So just as a last comment, I think I'll give you our story. The first time we participated in maybe dream companies to work for, like HR was very confident. Okay, we call ourselves people and culture, by the way, and I think that nomenclature change itself changed the dynamics of the organization that I represent today. So when we first participated in dream companies to work for, we were like, oh, we have these best-in-class practices, policies, everything should turn out fine, and I don't even think we were in the top 20. Okay. That message says a lot, but employees were happy. We didn't have attrition rates which were double digits. But there's something that the employees were telling us. So there, of course, we do, similar to what Varsha said, we have what we call the pulse surveys. We look at engagement. There's a lot of data coming in. But I think one difference that we were able to make was when our leaders actively, and I say leaders, business leaders, actively showcased progress in this. So it was not just a paper, it was not just a number on a presentation and said that we will work on trust. But what are we working on trust? How are we going to showcase ourselves as an organization that employees can believe in? When leaders started taking those steps, we saw that we were progressing much better than some of the most established companies. And finally, a few years down the line, we have won the top employer award 3 times in a row. So I think those are some of the essence that I think we need to take. And it's not just about the numbers that represent something, it is about the actions and showcasing those actions. And again, my favorite pet peeve in my function is making employees the part of the solution. What do they want? Involving them in these actions that will help us move the needle forward.
Also, I would like to add to this, having a culture of trust and inspire is extremely important rather than having a command and control. So rather than just saying just do it. So if you say I believe you can do this, can you do it for me? So when you have this culture, where we are talking about kindness, empathy, it itself talks a lot, So Satya Nadella, when he came and took over the charge of Microsoft as a CEO, so he's a lot of people were resigning from Microsoft, and there was a lot of chaos, happening there. And when he analyzed what exactly was the problem, so he built a culture of trust and inspire, and that's how it transformed the culture of Microsoft altogether, bringing up that model. So again, Steve Jobs, when he was in his first version 1.0, 1.0, so he was command and control, just do as I say. But when he returned back after 10 years to Apple, the Steve Jobs 2.0 version, he was trust and inspire. He trusted and inspired people. Can we have a mobile with one button? So this works a lot. And also at ESDS, we work every day we have a happy-o-meter. So when you're signing off from your machine, you're leaving for the day, so we ask our people question every day, how happy was your day today? So you have to rate on a scale of around 10 and all. And in case whatever we have set as a benchmark, if it's below that, So just questioned them. It's sad to know that you didn't have a happy day today at a workplace. What is that we can do to give you a happy experience tomorrow? So meanwhile you are returning tomorrow, this data is already gone to respective teams, respective people, and a solution is already found. And once you are returning tomorrow, we already have worked upon it. So as a HR, being agile and speed, it's extremely important. So this is what we have followed at ESDS.
So this question would be to Leetha. So as you spoke about like giving at least 60% of wage to your employees in the COVID era, like your organization, as you mentioned, is a 35-year-old organization, might have had a good employee size, at the same time, good amount of finance to back that up. For an organization who's like 7 to 8 year old, right? The organization was already in terms of different rounds of funding, like first round, second round, third round. Having a mid-size kind of a company, can you give a small strategy or something of like give some light there, like how can they maintain this kind of numbers? For them to maintain a 60% wage criteria is a big task, right? Like they'll go bankrupt. Investors will come to their house for asking money. So can you shed some light there? Because for you, it's like, it's not easy. Again, it's about intent, which you guys took in, and like really appreciate that. But for a company which is like not that huge in numbers as well and does not have that good finances, how would they do? Like, how can you just share some?
Am I getting paid? Okay. So I think you have to step back a lot than the immediate strategy that you need to take, right? You need to look at what is your short-term, long-term vision. Now, if you look at the organizations, all that's happening around us are immediate short-term measures that were required to be taken by them in their companies to mitigate what happened. So I think you have to step back maybe 7, 8 years. Look at not even say 3, 5, like, startups, for example, 1 year, what do we want to do? To achieve that, how can I maintain my levels in terms of whether it is hiring people, what is the purpose, what is the impact I want to create? I think you start there and you create short-term visions which culminates into a long-term strategy, which is 10 years. So just to give you an example, while Amadeus is a 35-year-old organization, Amadeus India only completed 10 years last year. So we are that mid-sized organization that you spoke about. We are technically considered a cost center because we are not directly contributing to the revenues, right? And India could have been that region where we could have said, okay, let's cut 10%. Possible, right? What was the long-term impact? We wanted to be an organization where employees remember us as an emotion, not just as, people as resources, people as, one person who's doing coding. This is the man hours that I will get and therefore I will do the return on investment. That's the long-term strategy. I think my advice to anybody like that would be, you should have a long-term strategy that, what do you want to achieve over a period of time, but also put a realistic 2-3 year timeline. Today, 5 years. When I started my career, people used to ask me, what do you want to do 5 years down the line? Today, if I ask a fresher that question, person will be looking at me and saying, I want to travel. The probable answer I get is, I want to be happy and content in life. That's what I will get as an answer. So look at it short term and then look at what measures you can take and what impact. And yeah, keeping it lean is important. This is something I've also learned in companies that I've been part of. Keeping it lean, keeping the organization structure optimal to understand what we can do with it and agree what measures we take to progress faster.